Today, for our interview series, we have Professor Volker Menze, visiting professor at RomanIslam Center. Professor Menze, could you please introduce yourself briefly?
Yes, thanks so much for having me, for interviewing me. I'm a professor of late antique history at Central European University. Actually, originally in Budapest, but now since I left, it moved to Vienna. I have been for many years also the director of the Center of Eastern Mediterranean Studies. And so my focus of research is actually late antiquity, in particular the Eastern Mediterranean. I'm interested in late antique religious controversies, Christian controversies, questions of heresies, and religious politics, meaning also questions of state and church interactions, interrelations. And in this context, I'm also interested to ask, what is the church? What are actually, or a church in plural, and also the churches? And so coming here to Hamburg, my interest is looking at Arian ecclesiology with a question mark. Is there something like an Arian ecclesiology? So looking at the churches, the so-called Arian, as well as the so-called Catholic in Visigothic Spain in the 6th century.
Professor Menze, why did you decide to come to Hamburg? Why did you choose the RomanIslam Center for your research project?
Well, when threatened with a lockdown, make sure you're currently living in a city you like, in a marvelous city. So Hamburg certainly is this, but I have to say, in all honesty, when I applied in 2019, Corona was something I came across in Roman history as a term, and maybe I've known that it's a beer, but I would have never expected that Corona would be something that could influence our life in as much as the COVID-19 pandemic actually also now do. So what I said before, I mean, my university moved to Vienna, but already last year we have taught in Vienna and Budapest, and both are great cities. And I like to teach in both cities, but you always once a week go back and forth. So if you have the chance to be on a sabbatical, I think it's for every researcher a blessing that you can focus on your own research. And then Hamburg was a natural choice. I mean, it's such a well-established place for the study of Visigothic Spain. Professor Sabine Panstrom is a renowned specialist for the Iberian Peninsula in Roman and in late antique time. So there was no real question. If you have an interest in looking at the so-called Arian church in Visigothic Spain, you should do it at a place where you have specialists, and with the exchange here also coming with visiting scholars back and forth, that you have so many specialists here with whom you can exchange ideas.
Thank you for this nice answer. One question. Which kind of perspectives do you see in the RomanIslam Center? I mean, possible cooperation in the future between your university and our center?
Well, I mean, one thing we simply don't know. I mean, where COVID-19 will lead us. So, when we are back to what we have, what we still call normal life, when, personal interactions, we still see this here also in the center. And, you and me discussing today via Skype, that this is, of course, something which, we don't know how this will develop. So maybe one of the options is, and I have talked here as well as in Vienna with the Center of Eastern Mediterranean Studies, if, shared speakers, would that make sense to share speakers, or also co-host conferences? We have audiences which, have overlapping interest, and maybe it would also make sense to, organize conferences together. For the center, of course, I mean, it's a funded project now for several more years. I think at least 3 more years. That is something that even under the conditions we have at the moment will attract scholars. So this is on an individual level, I would say, will attract great scholars to come here to Hamburg. And I already know I have been approached by people being interested who would like to come here. And I see, I think, a great future here for the center.
Great. Professor Menze, thank you very much for your time, for this very nice interview. I hope to see you as soon as possible.
Yes, in person. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
See you.